I was heading northbound on a road, and a driver heading southbound on the road who had been drinking crossed the lane and hit us head on, my son and I. We went off the road into a yard, and the next thing I remember at that point was I opened my eyes and there was just white in front of me. And my first thought was, have I died? Like, what's happened? And then a male voice was speaking in my ear next to me and said, we'll have you out of the car in a few moments. They're cutting the car. That's the noise that you hear. I have this sheet over us so that none of the debris or glass hits you while they're cutting the car. So I kind of blanked back out. My next memory after that moment was, I think they were lifting me out of the car. I had some pain. It's hard to describe. It was pain, but it's not the same. It's not like, you stub your toe and you realize it's painful. You're aware of it, but I think because of my injuries, it's just a little strange. Like, you knew it was there, but it wasn't pain like you and I would know it on a day-to-day basis with a bump or a bruise or whatever. They were lifting me out of the car. I remember telling them I had my left arm really hurt, and I kind of got a sarcastic comment back from whoever, I don't know who it was, that said, yeah, I'm sure it does. And I knew my arm, which kind of threw me off because I knew my arm was hurt, but I didn't know what was wrong. Like, I knew there was pain in that area, but I had no comprehension of what actually had happened. So then my mind starts spinning in circles, like, well, what is wrong? Why did he say that? Why did he make that comment? How bad is it? Those kind of things are going through your head. As they were moving me to the ambulance, I remember asking what had happened. Was it my fault? I was immediately told it was not my fault, that a drunk guy had hit us. We got in the ambulance. I don't know what the time frame is, how much time had passed. I have no comprehension of that. I know I was in the ambulance. I remember repeating myself a lot. I realized my son had been in the car with me, and I kept asking, where is he? And well, he was right there. He was in the ambulance with me. I think at that point I had a lot of bleeding in my head, and I couldn't really open my eyes very well. I don't have a lot of visual memory at all. I think just because of the blood on my face. So I asked a lot of questions, and I repeatedly asked, where's my son? He's right here. How is he? Is he okay? And then I would talk to him. Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? I remember asking them not to call my mother because I didn't want to scare her. She was elderly at the time. I gave them my brother's phone number because he was the one that picked my mother up and took her to the hospital. I gave them my husband's phone number. I don't remember doing that, but I did, because he was out of town. He was actually in the airport. He had come from farther away to Atlanta, and he was sitting in the Atlanta airport getting ready to come back to the Gulfport airport. He was on his layover, and the ambulance driver called him. They spoke briefly, and then he was able to speak to my son. And so they were assured he was okay, even though I was confused and not sure whether he was okay or not. After that, I kind of blanked out again. I do not remember arriving at the hospital. I do not remember being wheeled into a hospital, any of that. At some point, I started coming back, remembering some things. A close friend of ours had gotten wind of the accident, and she was a nurse there at Forest General at the hospital, and was able to bypass the front desk and come on into the back. So I distinctly remember hearing her voice and knowing she was standing beside me. And I knew my husband was not around. He was in another state at the moment. So it was very reassuring just knowing that she was there and nothing crazy and weird was going to happen to me because somebody was kind of looking out for me. After that, I remember the kids coming into the room. I remember my mother-in-law all being in the room at different times. I remember another friend coming in. I think I had been given some drugs of some sort because I didn't feel those painful things anymore. I was kind of chit-chatting and just random conversation with different people that came in the room. I distinctly remember my mother. She was funny. She was standing on my left side, and my left side was what was injured. And everybody that came in, she wanted them to see my arm. She would lift my sheet and say, "Look, you can see the meat in her arm." That was what she would say. You could see the meat in her arm. I remember her doing that several times. I remember the kids coming in and being upset and me assuring them, just chit-chatting with them that I was fine, it was fine, everything was gonna be okay. At some point, they were taking me out I had to go to surgery, and my husband had made it from the airport. He told me later, he had a friend, he landed in Gulfport. He had a friend that was a police officer in that area, and he called him and he said, "I gotta get to Hattiesburg quick." And so he said, "I got you, just go." And he had called ahead to all the area police departments or radioed or whatever they do and let them know that this particular vehicle was flying through to go to Hattiesburg. And he saw several policemen along the way. They let him on through, and he got to Hattiesburg just as they were wheeling me out to go to surgery. So I saw him for like 2 brief seconds. I was like, "Hey, you made it," because they had given me several medications, and I was kind of out of it, and I was like, "Hey, you made it," and like it was no big deal. And so I saw him for just a second. Went to surgery. Apparently, from what I was told, that took several hours. The point of that surgery was to remove. It looked like Freddy Krueger had taken his knife glove, and ripped it down my arm. That's what it looked like to me after the fact when I saw it. So there was a lot of glass shards, a lot of stuff that had to be cleaned up and stitched here. And then I had a large gash on my head, several little places along my forehead, lots of little tiny things that had to be fixed, for my glass, I assume, cleaned out. The gash on my head was fairly large. The doctor later had told my husband that she didn't think I would have any motion or control of that area. I did gain that back. I haven't had any residual effects from that. So the next thing, I was in surgery. The wreck happened roughly 6:30 in the evening on a Thursday. I was told I was in surgery and did not get to my room until about 4 a.m. on Friday morning. I don't know what time I actually woke up. I opened my eyes, and hospital rooms are fairly small, but to me, it was a big room. My perception was a bit off. My husband and my mother were sitting chit-chatting to my left, and I woke up and I saw them over there, and I was like, okay, I'm in a hospital room. And I knew I had injuries. I did not really know what they were, but my college degree, I'm a physical therapist assistant by degree, and so I know about injuries and a little bit of information about those kind of things. And so I looked at my hand and I saw I had one of those Velcro splints on it, that has a hard bottom and Velcro around it. And I thought, okay, well, if that's what I've got on my arm, then that's not too bad of an injury. I'm not casted or any kind of craziness, so that's not too bad. And so I moved my fingers. I was like, yeah, okay, we're good here. And then my foot, I had what's called a walking boot on. It's has a hard surface and Velcro straps around. again, because of what I did for a living, I knew that wasn't too bad. It's like, okay, I have a walking boot on, that's not bad either. And I wiggled my toes and I was like, okay, we're good. Then I kind of thought, I don't really feel very good. And I realized also I had the pain pump button in my hand, and I recognized that from working in the hospital for years. And I was like, oh, this is great. I have a morphine drip. And so I hit the button, and it beeps when you hit it. And so I hit the button, and Kevin, my husband, and my mother, their eyes both ripped around to me and realized that I had kind of woken up. And of course, at that point, I went right back to sleep again. So I woke up, I don't even know how long later. I'd have another surgery the next day to repair my bone injuries. I had a broken bone in my arm and my ankle. An orthopedic surgeon had to fix those, so those were done. So I lost roughly 3 days. I was in and out because of the 2 surgeries and the anesthesia and this, that, and the other. I went home from the hospital. The wreck was on a Thursday. I went home from the hospital the following Tuesday and began, kind of rehabbing myself, because I kind of knew what to do, and everything was fine. I'm all good. Everything's healed, and so far that's my only wreck I've ever had in my life, and I hope that's the last wreck I ever had.